One life changed eternity. Welcome to Justice and Glory. Together.
There is a single gesture in the entire life of Jesus that the Gospels describe in detail and then refuse to explain. Only once are we ever told that he wrote something. He does it with his finger in the dust of the ground. He does it not once but twice, kneeling down in the middle of the most dangerous confrontation of his public ministry, in front of a crowd that has gathered to watch him fail. And in all the centuries since, no one has been able to say for certain what he wrote. The Gospel of John records the act with unusual care. The words themselves it leaves completely blank. Why would a writer show us a man stooping to write twice and then never reveal a single letter of what appeared in the dirt? That silence is one of the oldest unsolved questions in the New Testament, and the answer may have far less to do with what he wrote than with why the writing was never meant to be read. Jerusalem, the temple, at first light. To understand the gesture, you have to stand where it happened. It is early morning in Jerusalem, sometime around the year 30. A great religious festival has just ended, and the city is still thick with pilgrims. Jesus has come into the temple courts at dawn, and people are already gathering around him as he sits to teach. This is not a quiet, private room. It is the most public sacred space in the Jewish world. The vast open courtyard of the temple, the area the Gospel of John later calls the treasury, where crowds move constantly and every raised voice is heard. The setting matters because only days before, at the festival that had just closed, Jesus had stood in this same temple and made an astonishing claim. He had cried out that anyone who was thirsty should come to him and drink, and he spoke of rivers of living water. That image of living water is about to matter a great deal. Into this open courtyard, a group of men arrives, and they are not alone. They are pulling a woman along with them, and they push her out into the middle, in full view of the entire crowd, before they say a single word to Jesus. Then comes the accusation. This woman, they announce, was caught in the very act of adultery. The law of Moses commands that such women be stoned to death. And then the question, aimed at Jesus like the point of a blade. What do you say? On the surface, it sounds like a request for a ruling from a respected teacher. It is nothing of the kind. The Gospel of John states plainly that they said this only to test him, so they would have a charge to bring against him. In this scene, the woman is not truly the accused. Jesus is. She is only the weapon they have chosen to use against him, the trap and its two edges. Here is what almost everyone misses about this moment, and it is the thing that makes all the rest make sense. The men holding stones did not actually care about the woman, and they did not really want a ruling about her. They wanted an answer that would destroy the teacher, and they had built their question so that any straight reply would ruin him. Consider the two roads open to him. Suppose Jesus says, yes, the law is the law, let her be stoned. He has just walked into a trap that could cost him his life. By this period, Judea lived under Roman occupation, and Rome had stripped the Jewish authorities of the right to carry out a death sentence. Later in this very gospel, when these same leaders dragged Jesus himself before the Roman governor, they admitted aloud that it is not lawful for them to put anyone to death. So the moment Jesus authorizes a stoning, he has claimed a power that belonged to Caesar alone, and his enemies can run to the Roman prefect and report him as a man stirring up the crowd to kill outside Roman law. But suppose he takes the other road and says, let her go. Now in front of the watching crowd, he has set himself above Moses. He has told the people that the sacred law, given at Sinai, can simply be waved aside. For a man claiming the authority that Jesus claimed, that is a different kind of death, the public collapse of everything he stood upon. It is the very same shape of trap his opponents would use again over the Roman coin when they asked whether it was lawful to pay taxes to Caesar, a question engineered so that yes and no were equally fatal. And there is a detail hidden inside the accusation that quietly gives the whole scheme away. The men say the woman was caught in the very act. But the law they are quoting does not condemn a woman by herself. The books of Leviticus and Deuteronomy are completely explicit that in a case of adultery, both the man and the woman are to be put to death. So if she was truly caught in the act, there was a second person present. Where is the man? He has simply vanished from the story, and his absence is deafening. These accusers who present themselves as the guardians of the law have already broken that law by dragging forward only half of the guilty. That one missing figure reveals that this was never a trial at all. It was a performance, and a frightened woman was forced to stand at the center of it so that a man could be trapped behind her, the finger in the dust. Into all of this pressure, with the stones already gathered and the crowd holding its breath, Jesus does something no one in that courtyard expects. He does not argue. He does not answer their question at all. He bends down, and with his finger he begins to write on the ground. Try to feel how strange that is. A woman stands in public disgrace. Men are demanding blood. A crowd is waiting for the teacher to speak, and the one person every eye is fixed upon quietly kneels in the dirt and writes as though he had not even heard them. When they keep pressing him, refusing to let it go, he straightens up and speaks a single sentence. Then he bends down a second time and writes again. The gospel is unusually deliberate here. It does not simply say he wrote once and rose. It tells us that he wrote, then spoke, then stooped and wrote a second time. The act is framed on both sides of his words, and it is repeated. Whatever is happening in that dust, the writer is going out of his way to make us notice it. And then, having drawn our eyes down to the ground, he tells us nothing whatsoever about what it said. The words beneath the words. To move closer to the mystery, it helps to look at the language the gospel actually uses, because the original Greek carries a detail that most translations quietly smooth away. When the text describes the first time Jesus writes, the earliest critical editions use a particular compound verb, a form of the word for writing, that can carry the sense of setting something down as a formal record, entering it, registering it, the way a clerk records an official charge. The second time he writes, the text shifts to the plain, ordinary word for wrote. Some scholars believe that shift is meaningful, that the first act is something like the recording of a verdict, and the second is simply the writing of it out. Others think the two words are nothing more than style, and the manuscripts themselves disagree about which verb belongs in which place. So this is a clue to hold gently, rather than a key to force. There is a second word worth pausing on. When Jesus finally speaks, he says that the one among them who is without sin should be the first to throw a stone. The term, translated without sin, appears nowhere else in the whole New Testament. It does not mean the man who has never committed this particular offense. It means the one who is entirely free of sin. In a single word, the sentence quietly moves the standard in the courtyard. The accusers had come asking, who was guilty enough to be killed? He answers by asking who is innocent enough to do the killing. And then there is the finger itself. The gospel could have said that he wrote with a stick or scratched a line in the dust. Instead, it says he wrote with his finger. For anyone raised on the Hebrew scriptures, that phrase sends up an echo. The law that these very men were brandishing, the commandments of Moses, were said in the book of Exodus to have been written by the finger of God upon tablets of stone. The same striking expression appears again in Deuteronomy. So there is a quiet resonance in the picture. The men hold up the law written by the finger of God, and the teacher answers by writing with his finger in the dust at their feet. A story that almost was not in the book. Before we ask what he wrote, there is a deeper mystery lying underneath this one, and honesty requires that we face it directly. This entire scene, one of the most beloved stories ever told about Jesus, may not have originally belonged to the Gospel of John at all. The earliest and most respected Greek manuscripts we possess simply do not contain it. The great early copies, the papyri from around the year 200 and the major codices of the 4th century, run straight from the end of chapter 7 into the beginning of chapter 8, and the woman never appears. When the story does surface in the manuscript tradition, it behaves in a way that no secure passage ever does. It wanders. In some copies, it sits exactly where we read it today. In others, it is placed later in John, and in still others, it is lifted out of John entirely and set down inside the Gospel of Luke. A passage that genuinely belongs in one location does not drift around the New Testament like this. The earliest Greek manuscript that clearly contains the story dates only to around the 5th century, and yet the story is genuinely ancient. A church manual from Syria in the 3rd century already knows it. A blind scholar in Egypt named Didymus cited it in the 4th. In the Western Church, Ambrose preached on it. Augustine discussed it at length, and Jerome deliberately chose to include it when he produced the Latin translation that would shape the Bible for the next 1,000 years. Reaching back even further, the historian Eusebius reports that a 2nd century writer named Papias knew a story about a woman accused of many sins before the Lord, though whether that is this same story remains debated. Augustine offered a fascinating explanation for the confusion. He suggested that some copyists, uneasy with a Jesus who allowed an adulteress to walk away unpunished, quietly cut the passage out, afraid that it might seem to give people permission to sin. Whether or not he was correct, the picture that emerges is a subtle one. Many scholars conclude that this scene was probably not part of what John first wrote, and at the very same time, that it is old, deeply loved, and holy in character with everything else we know about the man at its center. Those two judgments do not cancel one another out. They can both be true at once. So what did he write? So we come back to the question the gospel refuses to answer. For as long as people have read this story, they have tried to fill that silence, and their guesses are worth knowing. The simplest reading is that the writing meant nothing in itself, that Jesus was buying a moment of time, refusing to be rushed, showing the crowd that he would not play this game on the accuser's terms. Some have imagined that he was simply looking away, granting a humiliated woman a few seconds when not every eye in the courtyard was fixed upon her. A second answer is much older and far more pointed. Writing around the year 400, Jerome suggested that Jesus was writing out the sins of the accusers themselves, or perhaps their names, so that the men shouting for a stoning would look down and see their own guilt spelled out in the dirt. There is an old, interpretive tradition, preserved in early Christian art, that captured the idea in a single phrase: earth accuses earth. A third answer connects the dust to a prophet. Centuries earlier, Jeremiah had written that those who turn away from God would be written in the earth because they had forsaken the Lord, the fountain of living water. Read against that line, the gesture suddenly looks like a deliberate sign. And the timing is remarkable because only days before, at the festival that had just ended, Jesus had stood in this same temple and cried out that anyone who was thirsty should come to him and drink, calling himself the source of living water. Ambrose and Augustine both lean toward reading the writing as exactly this kind of prophetic act, and a number of modern scholars have followed the same trail. A fourth answer is legal. One influential scholar in the 20th century argued that Jesus was imitating the practice of a Roman judge who would first write down the sentence and only then read it aloud. On that reading, the first writing is the verdict. The spoken words are its pronouncement, and the second writing records the final judgment he delivers at the end when he tells the woman that he does not condemn her. This is where that unusual first verb, the one that means to register a record, becomes intriguing all over again. A fifth answer returns us to the finger of God, following a line of interpretation that runs through Augustine and the scholar Bede. Some have suggested that the hand writing in the dust was echoing the hand that once wrote the commandments on stone, and that Jesus may even have been tracing the very commandment against adultery that these men were so eager to enforce against only one half of the guilty pair. Others suggest he wrote out the requirement of the law that the witnesses to a crime must be the first to carry out the execution, which would explain precisely what he says next. The most careful scholars, including the great commentator Raymond Brown, gather up all of these proposals, and then, issue a warning. Every single one of them is a guess. The text itself gives us nothing. To claim certainty about the letters in the dust is to build a tower on silence, and that very silence may turn out to be the most important clue of all, one by one beginning with the eldest. Because here is what the writing actually accomplished. Whatever the letters were, when Jesus stood up and spoke, his sentence landed with the weight of a stone of its own. He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone. Under the very law they had been quoting, the witnesses to a crime were required to throw the first stones, to lay their own hands to the execution before anyone else joined in. So he does not deny the law, and he does not abolish it. He simply hands it back to them and asks who among them is clean enough to pick it up. Then he bends down and writes again, and he waits. And the gospel gives us one unforgettable detail about how that courtyard emptied. They went out one by one, and they began with the eldest. The oldest men, the ones with the longest memories and the most to answer for, were the first to lower their stones and walk away. There is an ancient echo here that a Jewish audience would have felt in their bones. Generations before, at a royal feast in Babylon, a mysterious hand had appeared and written words upon a wall that a powerful king and all his wise men could not bear to read, words that spelled out their own judgment. Now, in a temple courtyard, a finger writes in the dust, and the men who arrived as judges leave as the judged. The trap had been sprung, and it had closed upon the ones who set it. What the silence was saying, when we understand the culture around this scene, its whole shape changes. This was never a debate about whether adultery is wrong. It was a test of who held the right to condemn, and the answer that the writing forced out into the open was that not one of the accusers qualified. The law was not thrown away, and it was not ignored. It was placed back into hands that suddenly discovered they could not hold it. That is why the ending refuses to be simple. Left alone with the woman, Jesus does not tell her that what she did was of no importance. He asks whether anyone remains to condemn her, and when she answers that no one does, he gives her back both her life and a direction in the same breath. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Mercy and a call, rescue and a road out of the ruin. He neither crushes her nor excuses her, and that exact combination is the very thing the whole scene was built to protect. And perhaps that is the deepest reason the words in the dust were left blank on the page. If we knew precisely what he wrote, we could file it away as a fact about those particular men on that one particular morning and move on. Because we do not know, the writing becomes a mirror. Every reader is left standing in that courtyard, watching a finger move slowly through the dust, and wondering what would appear there if it were tracing the truth about them. The human being, formed from dust and standing on the earth he was made from, watches the finger of God write in the ground and slowly realizes that the writing is not only about the woman and not only about her accusers, but about everyone who has ever bent down to pick up a stone. Some of the greatest mysteries in Scripture were never sealed to keep us out. They were left open so that we would lean in closer. The letters in the dust are long gone. The question they raised is still lying in front of every one of us. If a single blank space in an ancient story can hold this much, imagine what waits inside the words that were actually written down. In the next part of this series, we'll remain in this same temple on this same charged morning and follow what Jesus says the very moment the woman is gone, when he turns to the crowd and calls himself the light of the world. There is a reason he says it here, in this exact place, at this exact time, and it will change how the entire scene reads.